His blessings upon you. Let's praise the Lord together, my friends. We have all awakened in God's shelter. Now we've come to praise His name together. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, my friends. Sing Hosanna. Sorry about that.
Hosanna,
Hallelujah.
hallelujah.
Alawa pa yaba haula pa. In the sanctuary of our Lord's protection and the stronghold of our Lord's defense. With His love our spirits are illumined as we glorify His name. Our hearts are blessed. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, my friends. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, my friends. Good morning. Good morning. That's the first time I played that song in 2 weeks, and you know what? My fingers kind of forgot what to do at one little point there. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and it's good to be back after our little summer school break last week. And good morning, everyone in Zoom. Good morning, Jeremiah. How you doing over there? He says he's doing good. He used sign language. And we've got Lauren here, sitting here in our sanctuary. Good morning, Lauren. How are you?
Good morning,
Good
Lauren.
morning. How you doing today, Daryl?
I'm well. How
That's
are you?
good. I'm good. I didn't say hi to the folks in Facebook land. Hello, folks in Facebook land. It's good to see all of you there. We can see that we've got a couple of people there at this point. And hi to anyone who happens to watch this after we actually do this program. Maybe you'll stream it later on YouTube on clearwaterbahais.org, very possibly under Radiant Reflections. And we appreciate any feedback you give us, or appreciate you just finding value in it. So thank you. And yeah, like I said, man, this is our first time back in 2 weeks. And even though it's only one, as far as we do this every Sunday. And yet when we don't do it, it seems like it's a long time. Yeah, 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 yeah. So it's good to be back. And
Sorry, but we can't hear you on Zoom.
you cannot hear us on Zoom.
Correct.
Particularly
That's
Daryl.
not good. What do
Mostly
we do,
Daryl, but you
Jeremiah?
either, Tony.
Can you hear us now? Hello? We don't know what's going on.
I can hear you, Tony, but I have my computer connected to a mixer board and I boosted the volume. Most people might not be able to do that.
We actually
Can't hear
do
you.
hear you all very loud.
I can hear you just fine. Don't worry.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you perfectly.
It's better.
Excellent.
Oh,
Maybe the problem.
I still can't hear Daryl.
You can't hear me?
Of course we can.
I cannot.
No, Huta, it's no volume on Daryl.
Oh.
But I can, so what's special with me?
You're wonderful.
No, it's my computer. You check your equipment.
Okay.
It might be, you know what? It might, no, no, I was going to say maybe
First one.
the MP3 thing is down, but that might not be the case.
So we're gonna crank up my gain just a little bit here. I think. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No positive change.
I can hear
Still
you
not really
barely.
hearing you. And I recognize Andy Murphy's voice. Is that Yuta's voice that I heard? I think that was
How's
Yuta.
this?
Yes,
How's this? Is this better?
no difference to me.
Just
It's
a tiny
it's
bit,
okay.
Daryl. Can hardly hear you.
You can hardly hear me.
They can hardly hear us.
That's interesting. So my gain is cranked up a little bit here. So
Carol voice is not coming.
can you slide that first slider up a little bit more?
It
Can
looks
you
like
hear
the
me?
mixer when you play music is okay, but when you talk,
You're
it's
not hearing
dim.
me
It
speak.
looks like your mixer is interfering with
So
your human
Jeremiah,
voice.
Jeremiah, also push the MP3 slider up and see if that makes any difference at all. The gray one, no, down there on the sliders. Right. Test one, two, test one,
forgive
two.
us for
Does that
having.
help any at all? Is that helping at all? Say
Keep
something, Jeremiah.
talking.
Keep talking.
Test one, two, test one, two, test one, two. Folks, we're
You're,
going to
Yes.
try and get this problem solved right now. We're dealing with the folks in Zoom. They can't hear us. Um, and we don't really know what to do about it.
So
and one crazy thing that is happening when people in Zoom speak, it sounds like the voice of God thundering through the clouds. That's that much louder and different than you
Oh,
folks.
it's a lot. It's very loud, is it?
right.
The people in Zoom, when they speak, their voice comes through orders of magnitude louder
Okay.
than your two voices.
So the problem's not here. It's over there. Apparently,
Oh gosh.
you're not getting any level for me. I mean, it shows there.
Nothing that you did made any change.
Crank it up. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yay!
This is getting much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds
All
better.
right. That's better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks, and thank you for.
Oh God.
Someone said that's what happens when you take 2 weeks off.
Thanks for hanging with us, folks, and we're going to go ahead and get started with a prayer now. This
Excuse
is one
me.
of my favorite prayers from the Bob, and even though it's spoken on a personal level, I think that this is still a wonderful prayer for groups. O Lord, unto thee I repair for refuge, and toward all thy signs I set my heart. O Lord, whether traveling or at home, and in my occupation or in my work, I place my whole trust in thee. Grant me then thy sufficing help, so as to make me independent of all things, O thou who art unsurpassed in thy mercy. Bestow upon me my portion, O Lord, as thou pleasest, and cause me to be satisfied with whatsoever thou hast ordained for me. Thine is the absolute authority to command. And once again, this is a prayer revealed by the Bob. Okay. And moving on, as you know, what's the name of the book we've been working with for so long now, Daryl?
Baha'u'llah and the New Era.
Baha'u'llah and the New Era. Yes, two different editions that you're looking at here, just with different printings, but the same book. Okay, some minor changes here and there as far as language is concerned, but overall, again, it's the same book. And we're in that chapter, The Way to Peace, chapter 10, The Way to peace. And in that chapter, Esselmont talks about ways that things that are important that are revealed by Baha'u'llah and also discussed by Abdul Baha in regards to how peace will be established and what will be the component, necessary component parts of that peace. And in our last meeting 2 weeks ago, uh, we were in the middle of reading about the necessity of a universal language. The necessity of a universal language. We didn't finish that section. We finished at the end of, um,
One of the paragraphs within that section.
say that again.
We finished at one of the paragraphs in the middle of that section.
Right, right, right.
Okay, and as we go forward, I'm going to go backwards just a little bit to talk about the one of the languages that was proposed was Esperanto, and at I'm starting with a paragraph that Abdul Baha said at an Esperanto conference in Paris, at an Esperanto banquet actually given in Paris in February of 1913. He says, today one of the chief causes of the difference in Europe is the diversity of languages. We say this man is a German, the other is an Italian. Then we meet an Englishman, and then again a Frenchman. Although they belong to the same race, yet language is the greatest barrier between them. Were a universal auxiliary language in operation, they would all be considered as one. His Holiness Baha'u'llah wrote about this international language more than 50 years ago, and in this case it's more than 100 years ago. He says that as long as international language is not adopted, complete union between the various sections of the world will be unrealized, for we observe that misunderstandings keep people from mutual association, and these misunderstandings will not be dispelled except through an international auxiliary language. Generally speaking, the whole people of the Orient are not fully informed of events in the West. Neither can the Westerners put themselves in sympathetic touch with Easterners. Their thoughts are enclosed in a casket. The international language will be the master key to open it. Were we in possession of a universal language, the Western books could easily be translated into that language, and the Eastern peoples be informed of their contents. In the same way, the books of the East would be translated into that language for the benefit of the people in the West. The greatest means of progress towards the union of East and West will be a common language. It will make the whole world one home and become the strongest impulse for human advancement. It will upraise the standard of oneness of humanity. I think I need to read that again. The greatest means of progress towards the union of the East and West will be a common language. It will make the whole world one home and become the strongest impulse for human advancement. It will upraise the standard of oneness of humanity. It will make the earth one universal commonwealth. It will be the cause of love between the children of men. It will cause good fellowship between the various races. Now, praise be to God that Dr. Zamenhof has, now, praise be to God, Dr. Zamenhof has invented the Esperanto language. It has all the potential qualities of becoming the international means of communication. All of us must be grateful and thankful to him for this noble effort, for in this way he has served his fellow men well. With untiring effort and self sacrifice on the part of its devotees, Esperanto will become universal. Therefore, every one of us must study this language and spread it as far as possible so that day by day it may receive a broader recognition, be accepted by all nations and governments of the world, and become a part of the curriculum in all the public schools. I hope that Esperanto will be adopted as the language of all the future international conferences and congresses, so that all people will need acquire only two languages: one, their own language, their own tongue, and the other, the international language. Then perfect union will be established between all the people of the world. Consider how difficult it is today to communicate with various nations. If one studies 50 languages, one may yet travel through the country and not know the language. Therefore, I hope that you will make the utmost effort so that this language of Esperanto may be widely spread.
And before you continue, I think it's, well, you know what? Because I know what's in the next paragraph, I'll hold off on making my comment. Maybe it's not even necessary. Just continue.
While these allusions to Esperanto are specific and encouraging, it remains true that until the House of Justice has acted on the matter in accordance with the Baha'u'llah's instruction, the Baha'i faith is not committed to Esperanto nor to any other living or artificial tongue. Abdul Baha himself said, "The love and effort to put into Esperanto will not be lost, but no one," let me back that up. The love and effort put into Esperanto will not be lost, but no one person can construct a universal language. No one person can construct a universal language. Which language to adopt and whether it is to be a natural or constructed one is a decision which the nations of the world will have to make.
I'll now make my comment. When I was reading this before, the first time I read this, which was, I don't know how long ago it was, I actually read this as if I didn't have the context that we have now in this text, but I read, that whole thing, the greatest means of progress towards the union of East and West will be a common language, and then he later on starts talking about Esperanto, and I really felt like I have to find out about this Esperanto. I have to start learning Esperanto. And Abdul Baha, depending on how you read this, it almost sounds like he's saying this will be. But that's not what he says. He
No.
says, with untiring effort and self-sacrifice on the part of its devotees, Esperanto will become universal. He didn't just say Esperanto will become universal. He said, it can become universal with untiring effort and self-sacrifice. And later on, of course, he says the love and effort put into Esperanto will not be lost. But no one person can construct a universal language. And of course, this being in the early 1900s, no one saw Google Translate coming along. And we had after the last gathering, we had our devotion last two weeks ago. As you know, we had a very spirited discussion on who's going to come up with the language, and someone asked the question, well, who has the authority? Basically, my paraphrasing. Well, who's the one who decides which language should be? All of that could be worked out, but it also says here which language to adopt and whether it is to be a natural or constructed one is a decision which the nations of the world will have to make. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't take away from the wisdom and the positive effects of having a language that everyone around the globe can
Can
use to
That's true.
express themselves and understand each other.
True. This goes on to say, to talk about the Universal League of Nations. Another proposal frequently and powerfully advocated by Baha'u'llah is that a Universal League of Nations should be formed for the maintenance of international peace. In a letter to Queen Victoria, written while he was still a prisoner in the barracks of Acre, he said, O rulers of the earth, be reconciled among yourselves, that ye may need no more armaments, save in a measure to safeguard your territories and dominions. Be united, O kings of the earth, for thereby will the tempest of discord be stilled amongst you, and your people find rest. Should any one among you take up arms against another, rise ye all against him, for this is naught but manifest justice. In 1875, Abdul Baha gave a forecast of the establishment of a Universal League of Nations, which is especially interesting at the present time in view of the strenuous attempts now being made to establish a league. Such a league, he wrote, true civilization will unfold its banner in the midmost heart of the world, whenever a certain number of its distinguished and high-minded sovereigns, the shining exemplars of devotion and determination, shall, for the good and happiness of all mankind, arise with firm resolve, arise with firm resolve and clear vision to establish the cause of universal peace. I'm going to say that again. True civilization will unfurl its banner in the midmost heart of the world whenever a certain number of its distinguished and high minded sovereigns, the shining exemplars of devotion and discrimination, shall, for the good and happiness of mankind, arise with firm resolve and clear vision to establish the cause of universal peace. They must make the cause of peace the object of general consultation and seek by every means in their power to establish a union of the nations of the world. They must conclude a binding treaty and establish a covenant, the provisions of which shall be sound, inviolable, and definite. They must proclaim it to all the world and obtain for it the sanction of all the human race. This supreme and noble undertaking, the real source of the peace and well-being of the world, should be regarded as sacred by all that dwell on earth. All the forces of humanity must be mobilized to ensure the stability and permanence of this most great covenant. In this all embracing pact, the limits and frontiers of each and every nation should be clearly fixed. The principles underlying the relations of governments towards one another definitely laid down, and all international agreements and obligations ascertained. In like manner, the size of the armaments of every government should be strictly limited. For if the preparations for war and military forces of any nation should be allowed to increase, they will arouse the suspicion of others. The fundamental principle underlying this solemn pact should be so fixed that if any government later violate any one of its provisions, all the governments on earth should arise to reduce it to utter submission. Nay, the human race as a whole should resolve with every power at its disposal to destroy that government, should the greatest of all remedies be applied to the sick body of the world, it will assuredly recover from its ills and will remain eternally safe and secure.
Okay, Daryl, is there anything here that you just read that feels a little uncomfortable? Just asking.
Is well, I think there's something here that makes you feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you would not ask that question.
yeah.
So
It's
please,
it's just again we're talking about
please
peace,
share
peace,
your
peace, peace,
idea.
peace, and we have to face the fact that peace doesn't happen just with a wave of the hand.
It does not.
It's not just some, you sprinkle fairy dust and boom, you have peace. We have to work towards it. And I think there's a real practicality in facing the fact that not everyone is going to be on board with the idea of universal peace.
True.
And consequently, some of the tools for achieving and maintaining peace might not seem very peaceful at all and yet necessary. I know I'm kind of splitting, hairs here, but I'll admit that here we are talking about peace, and yet they talk about the necessity of having adequate armaments as long as there aren't too many of them. The size of the armaments of every government should be strictly limited. That simply makes sense. Obviously, not every government on earth is even following that at all. I mean, think about it. This was back in the early 1900s that Abdul
That's
Baha was
right.
saying this. This was before the invention of nuclear bombs and so forth and so on. Um, and it's for the purpose of maintaining peace. It's I don't know. I think it's kind of mind-boggling that I just feel this takes a lot of vision. It takes a lot of vision to and practicality to understand that yes, while peace on earth is coming, it's still something that is not going to just happen again with the wave of the hand. And it is something that will have to be maintained in realistic ways, in ways that, some of the decisions that have to be made at that level are not always pleasant,
Right.
and not always the decisions or are not always applied or meant to be applied to our behavior as individuals. These decisions are for the protection of the people, and not just something that we as individuals, should apply to ourselves.
Well, that's true. But you have to admit that we have made, as in the world, some efforts to approach this, and as evidenced by NATO and by um, other international
Yeah.
organizations. That,
I still feel that, and I know we're probably belaboring this, again, when you move away from the idea of just personal salvation and you start thinking beyond that to, let's call it societal salvation, it shifts everything from just let me try and do everything right so I'll get my reward in heaven to let me support those efforts and those divinely inspired efforts, I should say, and principles that will bring about not just a sense of peace for just me, but a real peace that everyone on earth can benefit from.
right.
As you can see, I changed the song. When the peace comes, what colors will it be? When the peace comes, what colors will we see? Will there be darkness over every eye, or the sunlit haze of a new dawn sky? When the peace comes, what will be its sound? When the peace comes, will it echo all around in the raucous rancor of explosions endless, or the quiet thanks of a prayer relentless? When the peace comes, when the peace comes, when peace has come, just how will it be? Will mankind be gone, or will we live in harmony? When the peace comes, will the angels mourn? When the peace comes, can another child be born? Will smoke drift over the last seed destroyed? Or will we smile for blessings still enjoy? When the peace comes, when the peace comes, when peace has come, just how will it be? Will mankind be gone, or will we live in harmony? When the peace comes, when the peace comes, when the peace comes, when the peace comes, when the peace comes. I have to say, first of all, at summer school, Jamie did a wonderful job with that, Jamie Manfra.
Yes.
And I hope she's not, if she's watching, I don't know, she might say, he stole my song. I don't know, but anyway, um, I don't know. I'm looking at the screen. I don't know if you're out there, Jamie. If you are, hi. If you're not, I hope you don't mind I did the song that basically she's made her own. I mean, she really has.
Yes.
She does such a beautiful job with it. But anyway, to continue on, did you want to continue on? Do you think we got time to continue on?
No, you go ahead.
Okay, I do have one question. Where do we leave off? Oh, okay. The Secret of Divine, that section from The Secret of Divine Civilization, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, keep in mind what Darrell just read. This next passage is very important. Again, keeping in context. Baha'is see grave deficiencies in the structure of the League of Nations. I'll say that again. Baha'is see grave deficiencies in the structure of the League of Nations, which falls short of the type of institution which Baha'u'llah described as essential to the establishment of world peace. On December 17, 1919, Abdu'l-Baha declared, "At present, universal peace is a matter of great importance, but unity of conscience is essential, so that the foundation of this matter may become secure, its establishment firm, and its edifice strong." Although the League of Nations has been brought into existence, yet it is incapable of establishing universal peace. But the supreme tribunal, which His Holiness Baha'u'llah has described, will fulfill this sacred task with the utmost might and power. We should point out that at the bottom of this page, there's an asterisk that says the same considerations apply to the United Nations organizations. Of course, the League of Nations predated the United Nations. Okay, and let's see, we're looking at now international arbitration. International arbitration. We're moving on to a new subtopic. And again, this is still the way to peace, international arbitration. This is the practical stuff, not the mystical stuff. Baha'u'llah also advocated the establishment of an international court of arbitration so that differences arising between nations might be settled in accordance with justice and reason instead of by appeal to the ordeal of battle. In a letter to the secretary of the Mohonk Conference on International Arbitration in August 1911, Abdul Baha said, about 15 years ago in the book of Akdas, what Baha'is know as the Kitabi Akdas, but in the book of Akdas, Baha'u'llah commanded people to establish universal peace and summoned all the nations to the divine banquet of international arbitration so that the questions of boundaries, of national honor and property, and of vital interests between nations might be settled by an arbitral court of justice, and that no nation would dare to refuse to abide by the decisions thus arrived at. If any quarrel arise between two nations, it must be adjudicated by this international court and be arbitrated and decided upon like the judgment rendered by the judge between two individuals. If at any time any nation dares to break such a decision, all the other nations must arise to put down this rebellion. Again, in one of his Paris talks in 1911, he said, a supreme tribunal should be established by the peoples and governments of every nation composed of members elected from each country and government. The members of this great council shall assemble in unity. All disputes of an international character should be submitted to this court, its work being to arrange by arbitration everything which otherwise would be a cause of war. This mission of this tribunal would be to prevent war. Again, practical steps towards peace. Finally, during the quarter of a century preceding the establishment of the League of Nations, a permanent court of arbitration was established at The Hague in 1900, and many arbitration treaties were signed. But most of these fell short of the comprehensive proposals of Baha'u'llah. No arbitration treaty was made between two great powers in which all matters of dispute were included. Differences affecting vital interests, honor, and independence were specifically accepted. Not only so, but effective guarantees that nations would abide by the terms of the treaties into which they had entered were lacking. In the Baha'i proposals, and I'll rephrase, say that again. In the Baha'i proposals, on the other hand, questions of boundaries, of national honor, and of vital interests are expressly included, and agreements will have the supreme guarantee of the World League of Nations behind them. Only when these proposals are completely carried out will international arbitration attain the full scope of its beneficent possibilities and the curse of war be finally banished from the earth. I think that's a good place to stop. And once
Yes.
again, I said to you, Daryl, earlier that this section that we're reading is the part where I'm sure a lot of people kind of glaze over, glaze over on, because it gets into the necessary nuts and bolts. And it is the result again of having to come to terms with this, with the fact that peace doesn't come with just a wave of the hand or sprinkling of some kind of, you know, I don't know, I call it fairy dust, but it is something that certainly the tools that can bring about peace come from God.
That's right. And this is the blueprint.
Yes, but the application is on the shoulders of mankind.
Absolutely.
And until we apply these methods, then yeah, peace is going to be hard to come by. Okay. At this particular time, as always, we always like to have some time where anyone who would like to offer up a prayer or a reading or even a song, it's that time. And is Andy still with us?
Yes, I am.
Andy Murphy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
I want to
We're
say you
doing
were really
well,
good at
thank
summer
you.
school. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You really were. And
Yes.
do you have something to share with us today?
Speaking to me,
Wonderful.
excuse me, were you talking to me just then?
Oh, yeah, yes. I asked if you had something to share with us today.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure
I
that you
thought
were
you said
talking to
yes.
me
Okay.
so that I didn't answer in the place of somebody else. I offer the following, the blessed be. O Son of Spirit, the joyful tidings of light, I heraldly rejoice. To the court of holiness, I summon thee. Abide therein, and thou mayest live in peace forevermore. O Son of me, make mention of me on my earth, that in my heaven I may remember thee. Thus shall mine eyes and thine be solace. Son of man, thou to speak through the immensity of space and traverse the expanse of heaven. Yet thou wouldst find no rest, save in submission to our command, and humbleness before our faith.
Anyone else who would like to share?
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hello, Terry.
Yes. Let me see if I can share something with you. Give me a second.